Namaskar, good morning, Sat Sri Akal, Vanakkam, and so many other ways of welcoming the various countries and all my Indians from India who join in for the Dekho Apna Desh webinar series. We hope you're keeping well, we hope you're keeping safe, and very soon we are hoping that we're going to be actually traveling. But till we can't do that, we are going to keep bringing you the series of the various beautiful locations of India. We keep going hopping north, east, west, south because there's just so much to our incredible India and the journey is never ending. So when we started the journey on 14th of April, well, honestly, even we were not very sure how many will we run, will we be having enough matter, will we have enough passionate people who want to show the incredible India to the rest of the world. But believe me, we are running out of Saturdays. That's how it is. And that's the beauty of not only incredible India, but the incredible Indians. The way some of us are coming forth is so encouraging viewers that people who have nothing directly to do with tourism as a sector, but have been either tourists themselves or just are avid fans of their own country, are coming forth to bring the various elements of our beautiful, incredible Atulya Bharat to all of us and to the viewers across the world. Today we have two women presenting. In fact, before we started the session, we were joking about it on how today's webinar is entirely driven by women, because on the forefront are the three faces of women that you see today. But then behind team today was also entirely powered by women. So we have Ms. Meenakshi Mehta, who's the joint DG in the ministry, and we have Bharti Sharma, who is the assistant DG in the ministry. This is an all women's team. And not to take away from the men though, they've also contributing incredibly to Incredible India. So coming together today and taking us to the central part of India, again, the beautiful state of Madhya Pradesh, is Ms. Ashima Gupta and Sarita Arlukar. And interestingly, and this is the first time I think it's happening, that one of our presenters is actually sitting away from India. She's in Singapore, and she's lived in Singapore for 20 odd years and is joining with us today from there and making the presentation. So Ashima is a civil servant. She's a commissioner of income tax and posted at Indore. And that's not the only reason why she's passionate about Indore. Apart from being an engineer and an MBA later and working on numbers, she has not let that kind of gloss over her real passion, which remains textiles and culture. And she's going to be walking through the journey. She loves poha and jalebi.
Singapore.
And also joining her today is Sarita Arlukar. She is a Singapore-based marketing professional with a global education. Her wanderlust and passion for textile traditions has taken her to the lesser explored gems in India. And she's also a freelance writer, and therefore she loves to write about her travels. She is a published author too, and is currently co-authoring another book, which is in the pipeline. I'm sure it's going to be another very exciting offering. And before I hand over to Ashima, and why I mentioned viewers about the women joining in, is not a bias towards the women, but the sheer power of the women that we still need to leverage even more in India. And we're talking about it in many of our webinars, and I feel I must mention it again, that the ministry runs the Incredible India Tourist Facilitator Certification Program. It's a short online program. You can finish it in about 3 months' time and then take an online testing, which certifies you to be a tourist facilitator who has the ability to showcase your beautiful neighborhood, your beautiful country to anyone coming in, either from the different parts of India or from overseas. You can graph up later and also do the advanced programs, which shall be also offered very soon by the ministry. But in the meantime, do the basic program. Because the idea is to empower each of you to be entrepreneurial, also make a living in the process, but also in the journey of showcasing India. You are the best brand ambassador. And I think this is so critical at this point when the Honorable Prime Minister has been talking about the Atmanirbharta that we all need to develop in us. How wonderful it would be to enroll in programs like this, which not just gets you some bread and butter, but also allows you the amazing journey through one's own country. So that's about women. You can play the local host, you can be the co-host. The foods of India, I think the way the women can do it from home, there's no way you get that kind of food in any restaurant, any hotel. So I think there's so much value that each of us can add to the lives of ourselves, to our families, and to all the travelers. So I'm going to now pass on the web stage to Ashima, who's going to start the journey, and then Sarita is going to also walk along to Madhya Pradesh, the three beautiful sites of Mandu, Omkareshwar, and Ashima, you're going to tell that.
Thank you, Rupinder, for this opportunity to showcase three of my most favorite destinations. For the last 5 years that I have been in Indore, I have loved taking my friends and family to the beautiful Maheshwar, Omkareshwar, and Mandu whenever I could. For most of them, it was their first time. And everyone, I mean it, everyone, returned captivated, enthralled, and determined to come again and again, just as I was gleefully doing. During the pandemic, travel and tourism sector has taken the worst hit. We really hope that this webinar on the mystical triangle is going to inspire you to visit these places once the life starts normalizing. These should be definitely on your top 3 destinations to visit, either for a weekend getaway or a holiday. Over to Sarita, a dear friend and a resolute companion on many amazing trips. She is now going to take us to mesmerizing Maheshwar.
Thank you, Ashima. Just give me a minute and I'll get started. Okay, here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our audience. And thank you for joining us from different parts of the world. I'm going to take you on a journey. But before I start, you might be wondering, why the mystical triangle? The thing about the mystical triangle is that it is a getaway that you probably would not seek out exclusively, since it is quite off the beaten track. You discover it, and it is this discovery that is truly a delight. It is like entering an old world, a world with old world charm like no other, and smiles that are genuine. This journey into the heart of India is also a trip down the cultural highway of Madhya Pradesh, where you will encounter a unique blend of culture, of history, spirituality, weaving traditions, and immense scenic beauty. And these are immersive experiences, authentic experiences. Our starting point is Maheshwar, which is like a mini Banaras, without the hustle bustle and the associated chaos. We will then visit an island shaped like an Om, steeped in spirituality, and end by exploring a deserted city replete with majestic monuments and ruins and compelling stories waiting to be unlocked. What we like about the mystical triangle is that it has something for everybody. A quick getaway for a couple, a weekend trip for friends, or a solo trip to recharge and unravel the mysteries that this area beholds. And the good news is that most of Madhya Pradesh is relatively safe for all, including women travelers, as compared to some parts of India. Come, let us give you a glimpse of that experience. Well, if you want to encounter old India at its best, then Maheshwar fits the bill. Maheshwar is 90 kilometers from Indore and makes for the perfect day trip or weekend trip to cover the mystical triangle. Both Mandu and Omkareshwar are equidistant from Maheshwar. You can see the triangle that they form on the map. Getting to Maheshwar is fairly easy. You can take a tourist taxi or car from Indore via Jamghat, or you can take the main highway. We recommend the route via Jamghat because it takes you through these breathtakingly verdant valleys, and you could plan a stopover at Mahal, which is a unique and picturesque cantonment town. Do plan to stay a night at Maheshwar so that you can catch the stunning sunrises and sunsets across the Narmada. Some say that Maheshwar got its name after the Hindu god Shiva because Maheshwar means the abode of Mahesh. Maheshwar or Maheshmati, as it used to be known, is mentioned in both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. A story goes that Ravan, the king of Lanka, was imprisoned in Maheshwar by the then king Kartavirya Arjun. Another story talks about the Pandavas, who are said to have spent some time here. Even the 7th century Chinese pilgrim and scholar Xuanzang has mentioned Maheshmati in his writings. Our research also indicates that Maheshwar came under Akbar's rule in 1601, but it was undeniably this town's most famous queen, Ahilya Devi Holkar, who captured the imagination of its people, not just in the 18th century, but even today. Most of Maheshwar's attractions are located within its fort, known as the Ahilyafort. Scholars say that the fort was originally built by Akbar, but was revitalized to its current form by Ahilya Devi. As you enter the formidable walls of the Ahilyafort through the main gateway or the Ahilya Dwar, you literally leave the modern world behind and step into the old walled city of Maheshwar. In latter days, from Brahma came to rule our land a noble dame. Kind was her heart and bright was her fame. Ahilya was her honored name. Writes Scottish poet Joanna Baillie in 1849 in honor of one of the greatest Maratha women rulers of the Malwa region. As you enter the Ahilya Dwar, you are greeted by this very imposing statue you can see of its famous resident, Ahilya Devi Holkar. Very few queens of India, in fact, command the kind of affection and adulation even today, the way Ahilya Devi does. This was because in the 28 years that she ruled, from 1767, she charted a new life for the people of Maheshwar. So here was Ahilya Devi, a simple girl from Beed in Maharashtra, who was selected by Maharaja Mulhar Rao of the Holkar state to be the child bride of his young son, Khonde Rao, in 1753. Some years later, Khonde Rao Holkar suddenly died, and on Malhar Rao's request, Ahilya Devi Holkar became the regent for her young son. Her model for governance was benevolent yet effective. Ahilya Devi was a great devotee of Shiva, and she is credited with having built many temples, which you will see dotting the entire landscape in Maheshwar. She also built temples and rest houses or dharmshalas all over India, whether it was Hardwar, Badrinath in the north, or whether it was Rameshwaram, Kanchi in the south, Jagannath Puri in the east, and Nasik and Pune in the west. In this picture, you see the Kashi Vishwanath temple in Maheshwar that Ahilya Bai recreated from the original Kashi Vishwanath temple in Banaras in 1780. This temple has an exquisitely carved Nandi, and it is much less busy as compared to its namesake in Banaras. To the right of the statue of Ahilya Devi is the Rajwada. This is certainly a testimony to the simplicity of this much-loved queen. The two-storied home that you see in the picture was her royal residence. Even the Darbar hall, where she met her people, has just a low wooden chair covered by a silk canopy, which was the royal Gaddi or the throne. You must explore the Rajwada. You will see the palanquins, weapons, You'll see the solid gold jhula or swing for Lord Krishna that she had, even the little shivling that Ahilya Devi always carried on her person. These plaques will tell you about her many achievements, and you are sure to be filled with awe for this humble queen. Paramahamsa Yogananda, the well-known author of Autobiography of a Yogi, rightly described Ahilya Devi as the greatest woman of modern India. As I mentioned before, Maheshwar is often referred to a mini Banaras because of the many temples and ghats or steps that lead to the mighty Narmada. As you start to wind your way down the banks of the Narmada, the astounding architectural beauty around you, the beautiful temples with their overhanging jharokas or the balconies and the ornate spires will be sure to captivate you. On the way, you will see the Ahilyafort Temple. You can see it in the picture, which is dedicated to Lord Shiva. Do stop by, whether it is for the morning Aarti or whether it is just to admire its sheer architectural beauty and the serenity and calm it exudes within its intricately carved doorways and walls. Just opposite the Ahilyafort Temple is the Vitthal Temple. You can see it on the right of the picture with its interesting dome, which is like dome-shaped spire and intricate carvings. It is definitely worth a stop. Well, these are just two of the many temples that Ahilya Devi built in Maheshwar. We were told by our guide that there are probably over 91. Let's head down now to the river banks, as there is no better place than that to take in the magnificence of the Ahilyafort. Well, turn back to look at the Ahilyafort complex, the languid charm of the Ahilyafort, and the beautiful symmetry of the steps descending from the intricately sculpted gateway needs to be seen, to be experienced. This is also the iconic image of Ahilya Devi's Maheshwar, which is seen in many Bollywood movies, including the recent Dabangg 3 and Padman. The Ghats themselves are a whirl of color and interest. The Ahilya Ghat is arguably one of the most scenic ghats in India, with colorful boats moored along its banks. In fact, the Narmada is much more than just a river. It is the focal point for people who stay along its banks. In February every year, the Narmada Jayanti is celebrated with a grand Aarti at Maheshwar, and a 1,000-meter long sari is offered to the river. It is actually drawn in boats across the river from one bank to the other, and it is really quite a visual spectacle. We will talk about the significance of this river a little later in this presentation. The dancing waves of the river, viewed from the Ahilya Ghat, espouse a sense of meditation and peace. We strongly recommend that you hop into one of the colorful boats to ride along the Narmada. You can see we did that, and it was the most enjoyable experience. A popular loop is going up to Mamleshwar, a tiny island with an ancient temple on it. And if you take a ride after sunset, the boatman will light little lamps to offer to the river, as you can see in the picture. Nothing is more beautiful than seeing these little diyas or earthen lamps float on the grey blue waters. Once again, from the boat, look back and take in the sight of the lovely Ahilyafort. I assure you that this sight will be permanently etched in your memory. And do continue to comb the river banks, and you are sure to spot many temples. Mamleshwar is just a few minutes away and is quite spectacular at sunset. It is also enhanced by the headiness of the stories that surround it. Well, one story that I'm sure you'll be told is that this ancient Shiva temple lies exactly on the line from the North Pole to the center of the earth. and when it gets submerged during the floods. The locals believe that this signals danger for Maheshwar. When we visited Maheshwar, we were regaled with stories of how the Mamleshwar Temple was beautifully renovated by the Richard Holkar family just before his daughter's wedding. And as you get back to the Ahilya Ghat, do stay on for the Narmada Aarti. This is usually performed after sunset every day. Sit down on the cemented steps as we did and take in the soft bustle of local people gathered around for the daily Aarti against the background of the charcoal grey sky. It truly feels surreal, listening to the coordinated chanting of lighted diyas and lamps are released into the waters of the Narmada by both locals and tourists. This too will be an experience to remember. You could plan your trip to coincide with some of the festivals that are celebrated in Maheshwar. There is the annual Sacred River Festival with classical music performances. This takes place sometime in February. Then you have the Nimar Utsav, which takes place around Kartik Purnima or the full moon in November. This has 3 days of music, dance, drama, even boating. And Ahilya Devi's birthday is also celebrated in May every year, and there's a palanquin procession that runs through town. But it is definitely Mahashivratri, or the Great Night of Shiva, which is usually in February or March, which is one of the biggest religious festivals in Maheshwar. Thousands of women spend the night on the ghats, drumming and singing and taking a dip in the river. You can see in this picture how the Ahilya Ghats come to life like never before during Shivratri. At the Ahilyafort complex, you will come across the Ahilyafort Hotel. In the year 2000, Richard Holkar, Ahilya Devi's descendant and the son of the last Maharaja of Indore, converted his home in Ahilyawada into a guest residence. These living quarters of the royal family epitomize understated luxury. The hotel's hallways with wooden pillars are lined with black and white photos of royalty. The terrace overlooking the Narmada is one of the highlights and is a great vantage point to look down at the fascinating ghats. You can see in this picture Ashima's husband Parag looking very relaxed on the terrace. Well, among the many achievements of Ahilya Devi is the creation of the Maheshwari sari. It is said that she invited master weavers from Surat and from South India to create the traditional Nawari or the Maharashtrian style 9-yard saris, both for the royal ladies of her court and turbans, which were given as gifts to the visiting royals. Today, around 70% of the people residing in this town are in the business of weaving these exquisite handloom saris. Maheshwari saris, what's so beautiful about them, they're marked by this simplicity. Silk thread is used in the warp and cotton in the weft. So the fabric really has a very lovely silken sheen. These saris are ideal for hot weather. They are light and they are airy, as well as elegant and very versatile. What's also very interesting is that the inspiration for the weavers of these saris come from the temples and the forts of Maheshwar. So you have borders like Leheriya or the Narmada wave. You've got chatai, a matting. In fact, you can see the chatai border on the sari in the picture. You've also got rui fool or cotton flower. You've got eant design or the brick and hira or diamond. All these were all drawn from the fort and the Narmada river and woven seamlessly into the fabric of the Maheshwari. Isn't that a beautiful story? The unmistakable rat-a-tat of the looms will definitely lead you to the Reva Society, which is in the Ahilyafort complex. Here, Women sit at the looms and weave beautiful designs in silk and gold. The Reva website tells the story of how it all started. One evening, I think it was in 1978, Richard and Sally Holker were taking a stroll on the Ghats of Maheshwar when they were stopped by a man with a piece of cloth hanging off his arm. He eagerly showed them a fine, light fabric, something that they had not seen before, and asked them to help his people, who were the weavers of this fine cloth, so that they could continue and earn a living. To help these people of Maheshwar, the Holkers established Reva Society as a non-profit organization in 1979. Around the same time, the society also started a school for the children of the weavers. We strongly suggest that you also visit Women Weave, which was started by Sally Holker, former wife of Richard Holker. Sit with a weaver, chat with them, watch them weave their magic, and hear their stories. The Women Weave Society offers a signature program that provides both traditional as well as yet cutting-edge training to young weavers. They also run a creche for the young children of the weavers. In this picture, you can see Ashima with Sally Holker. Next to Sally is Sadhana, who also works with weavers in Maheshwar. When you visit Reva or Women Weave store, you are most likely to want to buy one of these woven dreams, or many for yourself, like Ashima and I did. Well, to stay, there are really limited options in Maheshwar. You could look at hotels like the Narmada Retreat, the Hotel Panchvati Palace, Hotel Devraj, amongst others. And of course, I spoke about the high-end option or the luxurious Ahilyafort. Once again, places to eat, Labu's Cafe is a lovely spot as soon as you enter the fort. There are also some others like Guru Kripa and Indian Heritage. But once again, the food options are kind of limited. So with that, we are now ready to move on to our next destination, Omkareshwar. Well, I didn't get to visit it on my last trip, so I look forward to seeing it through Ashima's eyes. Over to you, Ashima.
Thank you, Sarita. From the charming Ghats and the beautiful weaves of Maheshwar, we now come to the spiritual town of Omkareshwar. This journey will be interested not only for the devotees of Lord Shiva, but for every traveler looking for some offbeat experiences. As you approach Omkareshwar, you get the first view of Narmada when you are about 20 minutes away. No matter how many times you have made this trip, the first sight of Narmada never fails to exhilarate you. I suggest take a break after crossing the bridge. Gopal Midway is my favorite stop for refreshments. It has the perfect location for taking in the beauty of Narmada. This picture that you see here is taken from the bridge from a moving car on one of my return journeys from Omkareshwar. Narmada originates in the holy destination of Amarkantak, which is about 240 kilometers from Jabalpur. Narmada Maiya or Ma Reva is considered very powerful in its blessings. Devotees take a dip in its holy waters to cleanse themselves of their sins. You will commonly hear the greeting Narmade Har in these parts, which means Hail Narmada. It is considered by some to be the most sacred of all rivers. I once heard this story. When Ganga feels unclean, she takes the form of a black cow and in the darkness of the night cleans herself in the waters of Narmada. This is the only river around which a parikrama takes place. For the benefit of our international viewers, a parikrama or a circumambulation around deities, temples, rivers, hills, it's an age-old tradition of the Buddhists, Hindus, Jains. Narmada is the longest west-flowing river, and therefore its parikrama is a formidable spiritual exercise and a physical challenge for those who choose to do it on foot. Both Omkareshwar and Maheshwar are important stops in this parikrama. In this picture here, you see a group of pilgrims who are undertaking this parikrama resting at the Maheshwar fort. Next, please. Sarita, next slide, please. The people of this area believe that Lord Shiva lives in the pebbles on the riverbed of Narmada. The banks of Narmada are replete with cylindrical pebbles which look like shivlings. These are locally known as Banling. Many of you will know that there are 12 Jyotirlings. For those who are not aware, Jyotirlings are considered to be the different manifestations of Lord Shiva. It is said that King Mandhata, an ancestor of Lord Ram, belonging to the Ishwaku clan, did penance to please Lord Shiva, who then appeared in the form of a Jyotirling at Omkareshwar. The island came to be known as Mandhata Island. It has two hills divided by a valley, in a way that it appears as the sacred Hindu symbol Om when viewed from above. Across the river on the mainland is the Mamleshwar Temple. It is believed that the shivling in this temple dates back to the period when the Pandavas spent time in this region during their exile. I always like to visit both the temples. Even the Pandits here will tell you the pilgrimage to Omkareshwar Temple is not complete unless you offer prayers at the Mamleshwar Temple. Two pedestrian bridges connect the mainland part of the town with the island. As you cross the bridge, you will see the Omkareshwar Temple, magnificent rocky terrain lining the river basin, lovely ghats with colorful boats moored on the edges, the suspension bridge called the Jhula Pul, and the imposing Omkareshwar Dam, a picture of which you can see here in this slide. Here you see the statue of Adi Shankaracharya and the entrance to a cave which lies just below the main temple. This is the cave where Adi Shankaracharya received his sannyasi diksha and learned the shastras from his master. Adi Shankaracharya left Kerala when he was only 8 years old. When he reached Omkareshwar, he met his guru, Govind Patji. It is said that once Adi Shankaracharya calmed a flood in the river Narmada by placing his kamandlu in the path of the raging waters. Here you see the shops which line the lanes of leading up to both these temples, Omkareshwar and Mamleshwar, a common sight which you see outside every Hindu temple. When you enter the Omkareshwar complex, you are sure to feel the old world charm. It is a 5-storied complex. And here you can see the beautiful carvings which you will see once you are inside the temple complex. The additions to the original temple are said to have been made by the rulers of this region, particularly the Parmaras and the Holkars. Here you are allowed to offer jal to the lingam only through a pipe and cannot even touch the lingam. Be sure, Sarita, can we have the next slide, please? Okay. Be sure to look at the divine image of Goddess Parvati. You can see in the picture on the left, this is the image of the Goddess Parvati above the Shivling. When you visit this temple, you are bound to experience the positive vibrations. It was only after my first few visits to Omkareshwar Temple, I came to know that the Shayan Aarti here is the most special. It takes place at 8:30 every evening. It is believed that Lord Shiva comes to rest here every night. A game of dice is beautifully set up for Lord Shiva to play with Goddess Parvati. The extra effort you will have to make to attend this Aarti is worth it. It's definitely a unique experience. A visit to Omkareshwar is incomplete without the parikrama of the island. The route passes through picturesque landscapes with many old and new temples. Along the way, you will also see the remains of ancient temples and parts of a fort wall. About 2 kilometers into the parikrama, you will see some people going off the route onto the left side. These would be devotees going to visit the Sangam of Narmada and Kaveri and offer the prayers. The Sangam is situated on the westernmost point of the island. I have been going to Omkareshwar often to help a friend who is running a charitable school for the local children. This school is situated on the Parikrama route. Rupinder, you must hear this story. It is sure to gladden your heart. Once, outside the school, I met these tourists who looked a little lost. They were a group of 4 Italians from Sicily. Only one out of them could speak English, yet they were in this offbeat place, doing the parikrama and experiencing something very beautiful. That is the day I realized the magnetic draw of incredible India. When I told them about the school, not only they visited the school, but also made a generous donation. Here you see some pictures of the temples along the parikrama route. I suggest befriend the locals and hear the stories, especially about the ancient temples. I have also done the parikrama by boat. The 30-minute boat ride feels like a river safari. You will experience the thrill of riding through a gorge and may spot some beautiful birds. The most beautiful temple on the parikrama is undoubtedly the Siddhnath temple. If you are short of time, at least try and visit this temple. It can easily be accessed if you just go for about 300 meters after crossing the bridge when you are going to the Omkareshwar temple. The platform with the elephant carvings, the tall pillars with the intricate figures, the magnificent porches on the 4 sides of the main shrine, Narmada flowing on the behind, I find the whole complex has a very mystical aura. This year, I was very fortunate to attend the Shivratri celebrations held at the Siddhnath temple. Sitting on the stone steps inside the temple, hearing the synchronized chanting of the mantras in the illumination provided by the lamps, observing the full abhishek of Lord Shiva, it truly was a divine experience. Most of the tourist infrastructure is situated on the mainland part of the town. There are several dharamsalas for the use where the pilgrims can stay. Hotel Shri Radhe Krishna and Temple View are couple of the low budget options. Silani Island Resorts and Reva Hotel and Resorts, they are a little far from Omkareshwar but offer much better facilities. And now I take you to our last destination, Mandu. It is the place where you will hear the love story of Baz Bahadur and Roopmati. This story has all the ingredients to be a Bollywood blockbuster. It's got romance, music, poetry, war, and death. To truly experience the magic of Mandu, I suggest let go of the reality for a while and immerse yourself in the endless stories which your guides will narrate. You may hear the tinkling anklets of dancing girls, the war cries of the armies, or even feel the heartbreak when Roopmati committed suicide. Mandu is a plateau which is separated from the main Malwa plateau by a deep ravine called Kakrako. It is easy to imagine Mandu as a fort from times immemorial. The fort is spread over an area of 47 kilometers. The fortress wall used to be 64 kilometers. Every time I approach Mandu and the road starts to wind through these remaining gates, the excitement of the magic soon to unfold starts to build up. This experience is enhanced manyfold during the monsoons. Sorry, yes, please, thank you. In the monsoon season, Mandu presents a spectacle, the grandeur of which cannot be depicted. It has to be experienced. The lush green valleys, occasional waterfall which you will see, it is like a platter of visual delight. No matter, Emperor Jahangir has written in his memoirs, what words of mine can describe the beauty of the grass and of the wildflowers? They clothe each hill and dale, each slope and plain. I know of no place as pleasant in climate and so pretty in scenery as Mandu in the rainy season. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see the various rulers of Mandu. The town's existence can be traced as far back as the 6th century. The history is unknown prior to the rule of Parmaras, an Indian dynasty that ruled Malwa and the surrounding areas from the 9th to the 14th centuries. The data from this period too is also scanty to form a continuous account. There are no complete structures of the Hindu temples which survive. One of the reasons is that the remains of the Hindu and Jain temples were utilized by the Malwa sultans to make their own tombs and buildings. In 1261 AD, Dilawar Khan Gauri, the governor of Alauddin Khilji, the then Sultan of Delhi, defeated the Parmara rulers and heralded the Muslim rule in the region. After the Khilji rule, Mandu changed hands multiple times, from Bahadur Shah of Gujarat to Baz Bahadur and finally to the Mughals. The town, which was once vibrant, slowly slipped into anonymity. This entire region is very rich in flora and fauna. When Mandu was a flourishing city, the Malwa Sultans introduced the baobab tree to this area. It is locally known as the Khorsani Imli. The first time I saw the tree, I was fascinated and intrigued by its bulbous trunk. I found out it is due to the storage and absorption of water, which helps to produce a very nutrient-dense fruit. Here in this picture, you can see my husband trying to imitate the fat trunk of the baobab tree. While doing the research for this webinar, I read this very interesting story. Jahangir was in Mandu in 1616 from the months of March to September. He has given some very entertaining accounts of that period and has mentioned that lions, tigers, wild elephants, and other beasts of prey were found in this area. He writes that one afternoon, Begum Noor Jahan killed 4 tigers with only 6 bullets. He was so delighted that he showered 1,000 gold coins over her and gifted her a beautiful pair of ruby wristbands worth several times the then value of the 1,000 gold coins. Isn't that a handsome reward for some amazing marksmanship? In the entire area, you will find endless ruins of tombs, mosques, and houses. You feel that each monument is trying to tell you a story. The best way to start the exploration of the monuments is from the Royal Enclave, then visit the village monuments, and finally end with Baz Bahadur Palace and Roopmati Pavilion. Sarita, why don't you take us to the Royal Enclave? It's your favorite set of monuments.
Sure, Ashima, I'm going to do that. But before that, let me just check with you. Are you getting a clear view of the screen? Is the screen okay? Ashima?
Yes.
Yes, I'm getting a clear view of the screen. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, all these monuments have an aura of agelessness, and the beauty of the architecture of the Royal Enclave actually truly lies in its minimalism. As you enter, you see the Tabeli Manzil on the left. It used to have stables on the ground floor and guard quarters above. Now there is a small museum below, and the Archaeological Survey of India has a guest house on the first floor, from where you can get the best views of the next monument, which is the Jahaz Mahal. On the left of the slide, you can see the stairs that go up to the Jahaz Mahal. Well, we reach what is definitely the star attraction of the Royal Enclave, the Jahaz Mahal. The Jahaz Mahal itself gets its name from its ship-like shape. The palace was built by Ghiyasuddin, who is the 5th Sultan of Malwa. Ghiyasuddin led an ultra-luxurious life and was believed to have a harem of around 15,000 women, giving Mandu its other name, Shadiabad, or the pleasure city. The Jahaz Mahal is a 2-story structure with scalloped arches, airy rooms, and beautiful pools. In fact, there is a pool shaped like a tortoise. You remember seeing that, Ashima? And another shaped like a lotus flower. The next monument you will see is the Hindola Mahal, a building striking in its simplicity. It was again built by Ghiyasuddin to be a diwan-e-khas, or an audience hall. The wide symmetrical arches are sure to impress you. You can see that the side walls are perceptibly sloping, which gives you the illusion of the swinging, and so the name Hindola Mahal, or the swinging palace. Be sure to check out the elegant patterns on the windows of the west side of Hindola Mahal. This is where the women would watch the court proceedings. To the west of the Hindola Mahal lies the royal palace of Ghiyasuddin. Now, unfortunately, this is in a state of ruin with only 3 levels that remained out of the 7 stories that existed. But one can visualize the grandeur of the place. Champa Bauli, the famous well, is, however, fairly well preserved. The base of the well is connected to the vaulted rooms or the tehkhanas of the royal palace. Very innovative design that ensured that the rooms remained cool even in the peak of summer. Not far from here stand the remains of some hammams or baths. The concept of hammams is taken from Turkey. These hammams were used by Ghiyasuddin's harem. The hammams had this ingenious system of hot and cold water. I think for me, the most outstanding feature of the hammam are the beautiful skylights that you can see in the picture. And how can a palace not have a place for entertainment? Rang Mahal is the auditorium of those times. It had excellent acoustics comparable with the modern day opera houses. There are also several other monuments like Dilawar's tomb and others that you can explore in this complex. But I suggest you keep time for the other monuments in the village grove, which are dominated by the imposing Jami Masjid and Hoshang Shah's tomb. Let's ask Ashima to take you through the next group of monuments. Over to you, Ashima.
Thank you, Sarita. After the royal enclave, we come to the village monuments and we start with the Jami Masjid. Sarita, yes, please. Thank you. Jami Masjid is the largest and the finest model of Afghan architecture in India. It is modeled after the Mosque of Damascus. You will see the 3 main domes and several smaller domes. They help to amplify the sound, and even the frailest voice speaking from the pulpit could be heard. This mosque was huge. It could seat up to 5,000 people. As you enter the mosque, the first thing which strikes you is the huge colonnade of pillars. You can just see a faint glimpse. Sarita, the previous picture on the left-hand side, we are not able to show you the columns here properly. But once you enter the Jami Masjid, you cannot help but get impressed with the columns. Behind the Jami Masjid is the Hoshang Shah's tomb, India's first marble tomb. When you see the tomb, you feel as if you are seeing the blueprint of Taj Mahal, and indeed it is. There is an inscription on the northern wall which records that Emperor Shah Jahan sent his architects to Mandu before they designed the Taj Mahal. Do take a close look at the beautiful lattice work. The light enters the interior through the stone jalis, and you can see the 6 tombs which are inside. On the western side of the complex, there's a dharamshala. The colonnade here, which you can see in the picture, distinctly shows the Hindu influences. If you see minutely, you can maybe see the lotus flower on the column. What I enjoy in Mandu is that it's never very crowded. An important tip for all the lady viewers: do remember to pack in your gorgeous saris and Indian outfits. It surely will give you images to cherish forever. Ashrafi Mahal is another monument in the village complex. It was built as a madrasa during the reign of Hoshang Shah. Mahmud Khilji used one of the corner towers to erect his 7-storied victory tower, and he blocked part of the madrasa to construct his own grand marble tomb. The interesting thing here is that both Mahmud Khilji and Rana Sanga of Chittor erected victory towers and claimed that they had won the war. Now, unfortunately, neither the victory tower nor Mahmud Khilji's tomb survive, but you can definitely go up this grand staircase, which you see in the picture, and you can walk around the roof and get beautiful views of the Jami Masjid. Now, finally, we come to the story of Baz Bahadur and Roopmati. Baz Bahadur was a gallant king. He won many wars, but after he suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of Rani Durgavati, he gave up fighting and spent most of his time in the company of musicians and singers. While on one of his hunting trips, he was captivated by the singing of Roopmati, a celebrated courtesan of those times. Not only beautiful, she was highly accomplished and was known specially for her poetry. Initially, she rejected and refused all the romantic overtures of Baz Bahadur. She finally agreed to come and stay in the Mandu fort if she could have view of Narmada Maya every day. Here you see Roopmati's pavilion. It is on the edge of a mighty cliff. It became the lookout point for Roopmati to have sweeping views of the Nimar region and the sliver of Narmada river flowing across it. On a clear day, the views from here are magnificent. Baz Bahadur's own palace, it lies down below near the Rewa Kund. The ruins of Baz Bahadur's palace and the Roopmati pavilion still narrate the tragic end to the love story. When Akbar's armies invaded Mandu, Baz Bahadur could hardly put up a fight and had to flee. A eunuch of Baz Bahadur wounded Roopmati with a sword to save her from Adam Khan and the imperial army. Roopmati, however, survived the wound. When Adam Khan summoned her to his presence, she dressed herself in all her finery, but at the appointed hour, she committed suicide by consuming poison. The songs of this love story are popular even today in Malwa. When I visit Mandu, I always imagine a Sanjay Leela Bhansali movie with Deepika Padukone as Roopmati. When you visit this region, remember to taste the local dal bafla, poha, jalebi, kachori, which is available in the entire MP, this Malwa region. MP Tourism's Malwa Resort and Malwa Retreat are good places to stay. However, to share with you, I've still now not spent a single night in Mandu. I find it more convenient either to do a day trip from Indore, or I like to spend the night in Maheshwar and then visit Omkareshwar or Mandu depending on the program the next day. I have seen that a lot of foreign tourists also like to make Maheshwar as their base, and then they explored this area. When Sarita and I walked down these dusty lanes of history, we both wondered why Mandu has not achieved the iconic status of Hampi or Agra. But then we felt grateful, for there is no greater joy in discovering something which is relatively untouched. There are organizations like Natu Foundation which are working for heritage conservation. They arrange walks and trekking trips to uncharted heritage sites. Some individuals and organizations are striving hard to have Mandu included in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I'm sure even the MP government is working towards this goal. Rupinder, I hope you will have something to say about this, which is going to make our viewers in Madhya Pradesh and especially in the Malwa region very happy. I thank the Ministry of Tourism for giving me and Sarita this opportunity to showcase you the beautiful jewels of the mystical triangle, Maheshwar, Omkareshwar, and Mandu. I hope all our viewers had a good time. Over to you, Rupinder.
Thank you so much, Ashima and Sarita. I'm almost feeling that I'm in Mandu. I'm, walking through the bindings of history. There's so much that you have brought together in one webinar, and the kind of response that I was reading through the various feedbacks that we are getting from the viewers. And it's so fascinating to go through this part of incredible India. And very happy to note that a lot of people have already started jotting down which month they are going to go. So viewers, very soon, most of these places, and I'm glad, Ashma, you also mentioned that this is a place which will allow social distancing because that's what is needed. These are relatively more empty places. So
Yes.
space your travels and go and stay in these amazing places. In the monument there, I think, Sarita, you mentioned about the guest house that ASI actually runs. I
Yes.
believe it's an amazing place. I haven't been there yet. And the rooms are supposed to be very, very comfortable. But also, do remember that there's going to be the friendly ghost of Rani Roopmati walking somewhere in those. So, a few questions coming in before I mention the questions. I'm going to ask you, Ashima, as to what is the news and the buzz that you're hearing about the UNESCO story?
Okay. Actually, I was a little short on pictures for Baz Bahadur and Rani Roopmati Pavilion. So I requested my friends, especially Mr. Udyan Natu and Kritika, to help me with the pictures. And that is when they told me, when am I going to visit Mandu again? Last monsoon, I was with both of them in Mandu. Parag and I, in fact, we didn't even visit the monuments because we were so enjoying the verdant meadows and the valleys. It was an awesome monsoon experience in Mandu. So this is when Mr. Natu told that soon, they hope. And now I think after this webinar, I am confident Ministry of Tourism is going to help them Mandu declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has so many monuments. We have mentioned ASI is maintaining only 61 out of the whole lot of monuments you will get to see in Mandu. If you are a real passionate traveler and you want to discover the undiscovered monuments yourself. So there's so much of scope. And I have seen from my various travels that the foreigners, they would love, the international tourists, they would love, once Mandu gets this tag of UNESCO World Heritage Site, to come and discover and explore this area.
Yes, in fact, one of the viewers, Nishant Upadhyay, is giving us the input, which I would like to share with all people who are tuned in, that the application for nomination of Mandu to the UNESCO World Heritage List is in progress. It's already in the listing. MP Tourism has been endeavoring very hard for it. And let me also tell the viewers, therefore, that the tentative list is available on the Ministry of Culture's website. So do have a look, because there could be that one place right in your neighborhood which is, sort of ready to go in the UNESCO World Heritage Site. In fact, viewers, this is the 42nd webinar which we are doing, and most of them have been around places in India. And I always say that it is so humbling to walk through the various parts of our beautiful, incredible India, that there must be just so many places, Ashima and Sarita, that can actually go on the UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Absolutely.
And therefore, it's a reminder that goes out to all my fellow Indians. Of course, we are inviting everybody else from the world also, but especially for all my fellow Indians, don't miss to see your own beautiful country. We want you to travel the world, but do travel your own country first. I think there are so many aspects of our own country that escape us. I used to think myself as a reasonably well-traveled person, but every time that I run a webinar, I realize how little I know of my own country's vast and so diverse and ancient, absolutely ancient culture, which is still alive in our homes, it is alive in our lives. Well, but I can go on and on, but let me still keep asking a few questions because we have some time. How are the roads, Ashma, you've been doing a lot of travel. So how are the roads between Maheshwar, Omkareshwar and Indore? And also somebody has asked from Dehadiya to Mandu.
Access from Indore to all these places is excellent. The road quality is fantastic. I would not specifically know from Dehadiya to Mandu, but it's interesting to know when you read the old accounts of Mandu, say about 100 years back when, during the Britishers' time, they were the ones who actually started the renovation. Those times the roads were bad and it used to be a real challenge to reach Mandu. It used to be, in fact, backbreaking. But now it's a breeze. You will love traveling on the MP roads.
Fantastic. And also, people are asking how many days should they be planning for this circuit, and
okay,
how much is the minimum?
I would love to answer this question. So I have hosted so many friends and family, and let me share with all my viewers. Depending on the time each and everyone had, I have ensured that they get the maximum, the most enriching experience. Ideal, we have not covered Ujjain in this mystical triangle, but from Indore, if our viewers would want to cover all the 4 places, Ujjain, Maheshwar, Omkareshwar and Mandu, a 2-night trip with 3 days is good enough. But let me warn you, you will have to push yourself a little bit. It will be a action-packed, power-packed holiday. Don't expect to relax and take it easy. If you are ready to push yourself a little, 2 nights are enough.
Sarita, I would ask the next question to you, that you've been living in Singapore for almost 2 decades now. And if you were to take all the beautiful sights of India to people living in Singapore, Singaporeans and Singaporean, of course, Singapore offers a melting pot for a lot of people who come from all over the world. How and what do you think is the rightest way to pitch these amazing sights of India?
I think this is not just to people of Singapore, but I think it's just to anybody coming to India from outside India. There is something for everybody. So there is history, there is culture, there is food, there is just people, there is the warmth of people. There is so much that you can. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for natural and scenic beauty, you get that. You get that even in this region, because the tribes are really beautiful in MP. You're looking for history, archaeology, you're looking for culture, you're looking for festivals, you're looking for color. So I mean, you just get it all. So whether it is here in MP or in other places, I think there's just so much for everybody, something for everybody, really.
Yes, I think in India you're spoiled for choice. There's just everything for somebody looking for food. There's arts and crafts, there's music, there's dance, and of course, more than 3,700 archaeological survey of India protected monuments. There are so many state monuments. There's just so much splendor of the nature. I think we are a blessed land. We have the Run of Kutch, where we've already visited. We have the deserts, the mountains, the mangrove swamps in the Sundarbans area, the forests, the wildlife. You look at the flora and the fauna figures for India, it is just mind-blowing. And I think more than that, or perhaps adding value to that, is the fact that we are such an ancient civilization. We took the viewers to Varanasi one of the days, and it's the most ancient living city of the world. And I think the amount of rooting that therefore we develop as a people, as a country, is something that keeps us so incredible, doesn't it, Ashiba and Sarita? And I think that's the message, viewers, we've been trying to take to all of you. Well, as always, we are at the end of the session today. It always ends much before we've showcased everything, but that's the point. We want to leave a lot of things unsaid and unshown. We want you to travel. And the world is going to be safe again to travel. In the meantime, do keep yourself safe, keep your mask, keep the social distancing, do keep all that. But this time we took you to the landlocked Maheshwar, Indore and Omkareshwar. So time to go and see the Arabian Sea or the other sea. Which one? My team tells me, well, let's go on to the eastern coast of India. And so we're going to be looking at the Bay of Bengal next time, from the city of Visakhapatnam, as it used to be called earlier and is now called Vizag, another beautiful city of India with so much to showcase. So next Saturday, 25th of July, 11 a.m., do not forget to tune in and join us as we take you to the seaside town of India, Vizag. And for today, thank you so much, Ashima. Thank you so much, Sarita. Thank you, Team NEGD, as always, being a great, great support to us. And my last and final message to everyone remains that please join us in this journey of showcasing India the way you want us to showcase. This is your program. And it's so beautiful to see people like Asha and Sarita all the way from Singapore join us in creating content for the Dekho Apna Desh webinar series. तो देखते रहिए, दर्शाते रहिए और घूमते रहिए अपने सुंदर अतुल्य भारत में. It's an incredible country. Just keep traveling. Take the car, head out. So thank you very much once again, viewers, for giving us so much support. Namaste. See you on 25th, 11 a.m. from the city of Vizag. Thank you.
Thank you.